Welcome to another WLRN extended interview. Emiliann Lorenzen interviewed Joy Gray about Revfem Rebellion. Joy is traveling across the U.S. by motorcycle and protesting gender identity clinics and prisons that are housing men with women. Joy shares her journey to radical feminism and her background in victim advocacy. Enjoy, sisters.
All right, so hi, Joy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I met Joy at Sovereign Women Speak, and we got to talk a little bit and found her really interesting, so I thought I would interview her today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So would you like to tell the listeners about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Joy. I'm primarily a victim advocate. I would say that's my most important quality about myself. I'm actually from Baltimore, but right now I'm all the way on the West Coast in Portland. So I am here because I am doing a cross-country motorcycle trip. And I started actually on this trip as a support person for another woman who was starting the trip. Because when I heard about what she was doing and she was speaking out against the harms of gender ideology, and I really supported the rights that she was advocating for, I just couldn't imagine doing something like that alone. So I thought, I don't know, I was tired of sitting at home and commiserating as much as I can be helpful. I was tired of it and I felt like I needed to do more, and it seemed like a perfect opportunity to do that, to do something physical. And I had my motorcycle license. So I want to preface this with I encourage people to do what I'm doing, which is street activism and speaking with people, but I don't necessarily encourage doing it the way I did it, because I should have prepared more. I mean, I felt like I prepared as much as I could, but man, without a lot of experience riding cross country on a motorcycle that's a bigger size than you're comfortable with and all that, it can be it's not safe. So if I could do it again, I would have practiced a lot more. But with the time that I had, which was I met her in January, so a couple months, I did what I could to get the bike and get experience and everything. And really the only way to practice riding or learn how to ride a motorcycle is to do it. So I got on this road trip. We protested pediatric gender clinics, and I continue to do that. The ones that are performing medical interventions on children. Women's prisons that now admit men. We protested the Olympic rings as they did a tour of the country because they were allowing men to compete in the Olympics. And so that's the kind of activism, the street activism, the engaging with the public. That was what this was teaching me. So when she had to leave from Chicago, I was out there and I saw that what we were doing worked. It worked well. We had so many conversations with so many different kinds of people that I never would have ever talked to in everyday life or online. Women who had lost children, families that had just been introduced to this ideology and the harms of the consequences of it, I guess. And talking to them person to person, there's so much connection that I never realized was missing. I didn't appreciate how much it was missing from online and those types of connections. Even, I mean, there are some women that I stay with. So I primarily stay with women, other radfems, other gender critical women who support my message and support the work I do, and just crazy how much a comfortable bed and a lock on the door and a good meal, it's what you need after a day on the bike, after a day of people giving you the finger and telling you you're ignorant when you're just trying to advocate for children's safeguards. It can be a bit crazy making. So that kind of caring really goes a long way. And some of these women I stay with for 12 hours when I'm in and out on the way quick to the next city, and the connections I've made. Some of them I just met, some I'd been connecting with during Zoom meetings regularly for a year. And it was the day of meeting with them in person that I was like, wow, I actually know her. I don't just know about her. So that was what kept me on the road when I was alone, and realizing I had to restart. So I just, there were a lot of women that were organizing with us, that continued to organize with me, and gave me so much motivation and inspiration and ideas of where to go, people that might be able to keep me or guide me or give me advice, that I just went with it. And so now I'm continuing on. We went from Chicago. So we've gone up the East Coast, all the way from Florida, all the way up to DC. We went through Pennsylvania, we went through Ohio, and to Detroit and Chicago. From Chicago, we made nothing short of a marathon sprint to Washington for the Sovereign Women's Conference, because they were protesting the women's prison that had been admitting men and had assaults there. So
and you're talking about Skylar Gwynn's The Ride.
Right, but that ended in Chicago. So this is now post-Chicago, where I'm continuing by myself. And so it was me, and I have a support van. And so we went to Denver, and from Denver, we went to Washington. We kind of just sprinted to make it to that conference. And that was awesome to connect with so many women doing this kind of work, all different kinds of the same work. It was really great networking to understand different ways that we can all help each other and support each other. I absolutely loved that, and getting to, again, meet people on this one-on-one level. I love that I got to meet you. I mean, it's so different having a person that you've met, and I can't stress that enough, how valuable those connections are. And I know it's hard to, be careful and cautious in this time of COVID, but as much as we can to connect, even if you're going out and meeting in a park or I've met people in the dog park and socially distanced, peeked them from afar, but it was the conference that also kind of rekindled my passion and my flame and understanding of it's important to do this work, to meet people on the ground, to meet the average person where they're at. It just works. After Sovereign Women, a group of us went stickering, and we had this crazy experience where on the way back from where we stopped, we ran into this guy who was ripping off our stickers. And I approached him and just casually, but in the way, saying thank you for perfectly demonstrating the misogynistic silencing of women's voices, right, and our opinions. And it was a 20-minute conversation that started with a lot of talking over each other, as they usually do, but we stuck it out. And by the end of the conversation, he was piqued. I mean, not only admitting that there was a conflict of rights, but that some women had a right to be angry about that conflict and being silenced over it. So that, not only having action, but having sisters of mine witness it and see this is how you approach a situation. You can do it calmly you can talk loud, but not screaming at each other. Mm-hmm. It's really a snowball effect of just being able to communicate and reach common ground. So
were you afraid at all that it might attack you or something?
So I do. I'm one of those CPTSD people who has that and suffers from that. But so I would say I do get triggered, and I do. In this, it's different than the bike. Okay, so that's my bike back there, by the way. There it is. I get triggered riding the bike because it's a heat thing. It gets very hot on the bike, and especially if you're in stop and go traffic, or you stop at a stoplight, or you're stuck and you're just sweltering in it for a couple seconds before you start moving again. It's extremely triggering for me physically. And there are times where I'm getting off the bike, and my support person knows if I'm tearing off my helmet, they're meeting me with a glass of water, a water bottle to pour over my head to cool down. That's actually why I cut my hair. It's so funny because so many people have, especially people on the street, I guess it's so crazy the way they'll talk to you so differently because you have short hair, because you have a buzzed head as a woman. And I mean, I had long long blonde hair. I mean, up until the day before I left for this trip. And it's a completely functional decision to cut it with. Now the triggering of having the hair all over my neck and feeling like that aspect is gone. And it makes it easier to ride. I can ride for longer. I don't have to feel that aspect. So it's interesting to me that it's treated as this statement when it's totally functional. And I support any woman who wants to cut her hair because it's amazing. Oh my gosh, it's been amazing. No maintenance whatsoever. It's great. But in the same way, I do get triggered in, well, I guess in a different way, especially this guy in particular was bigger dude, aggressing, trying to tower over, raising his voice, getting mad. But it was broad daylight. I had like 6 other women with me. And when they noticed him getting aggressive, one of them came over and then more of them came over. And we, just to continue talking with him. So I was triggered by the encounter, but I wasn't really worried about being attacked. A lot of the situations, especially when you're in broad daylight, when you protest outside prisons or hospitals, there's usually security guards hanging around. So that helps a little bit to mediate the worry about being attacked. And a lot of these conversations are spontaneous. So when I do protests, when I organize protests or work with women to protest places, we don't advertise because I don't want to put people at risk. I'm not big enough. I don't have enough experience. I'm trying to learn as I go and listen to the women who have more experience than me in learning how to just show up, how long to be there before we're giving people the opportunity to get mad and come back and cause us problems. So I try to mediate that feeling of feeling unsafe. Generally, no, I do not worry about being attacked. And in that instance, I was not worried. No. You have to hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and not be too ignorant about it. But it's a perfectly valid reason why some women wouldn't be comfortable doing boots on the ground stuff. It can be dangerous. It can be scary. Even in a group of women, it can be together. It can be very scary. But it's scary riding the motorcycle. And for someone like me and my personality, it's a reward to overcome that fear. Every time I get on the bike, I'm less and less scared. Thankfully, I used to be very scared at the beginning of all this. I'm not scared anymore, but once they get off, I really feel like a superhero. Same with protesting. When you get on the streets and you're protesting and you change people's minds, and you change people's minds at work, in the hospital, you change people's minds who have trans kids at home, you walk away from that feeling so really empowered. It is such a good feeling of like, wow, like I'm making change, I'm helping in some small way.
So yeah, there's something to be said for facing your fears. And I'm sure you've gained a lot of confidence talking to people in the streets. How long have you been doing this now?
So I started in mid-May, so more than 3 months. My first real on the ground experience was Women Picket DC, when I went as the handmaiden.
Right.
That was really what started it, I think, because I was in a very eye-grabbing costume. So I had the long red cape, I had the white bonnet of the Handmaid's Tale, and I'd gotten made a leather muzzle, the kind that they put on the unruly women in the show. I had one of those made, and I had the woman who made it, I had her put the trans pride flag over the mouth of it to symbolize their silencing of us. So it was this very eye-catching costume, and I had a big bigot sign that I was holding for most of the day. But when the presidential motorcade came around the corner and we all rushed the corner because we were told it was coming, it turns the corner and President Biden is sitting right there in the seat. I was close enough to spit on his window if they wouldn't have charged me with like assault, right?
Did you see him?
I saw him. His eyes immediately get drawn to this crazy, costume that I'm wearing. And he makes eye contact with me and then looks and reads my sign. And my sign says born, not worn, with the female symbol through the O in the born. And he drives away. And I just had this moment of like, just total silence. Like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
I can't believe I was able, eye contact, disagreeing, telling him, I say, no, you can't do this and redefine women. Like, it was life-changing, absolutely life-changing. I mean, that was the moment that taught me true empowerment. That was empowerment, to be able to not only just say no, but scream it at the president as he drove by, eye contact. Oh, it was phenomenal. So maybe I'm chasing that feeling, but I do feel it all the time when I'm on the bike, when I'm doing victim advocacy, because all of this is about safeguarding. All of it is about power and control and safeguarding loss of agency, which is primarily women and children. So it's very inspiring. That's what sparked the drive, and then getting on the ride, winding up in Chicago and having to start from scratch this Revfem Rebellion, which I'm loving. It's so personal. It's about connecting the women who ask me to come, who say there's this pediatric gender clinic that helped trans my friend's kid or my kid, or that I'm having I'm forced to go to, or that I have a sister in a prison, or these are the connections of connecting the women. It feels surreal to be in the position I'm in, which is on the ground. And the three goals of mine, which is what I do every time I go out and protest or connect people, is to protest the actual places, these clinics or the prisons. And most recently, I'm kind of focusing in on the social media sites that are silencing us primarily, that are banning women, but banning radical feminists, but not rapists.
Yeah.
Banning women's opinions, not pedophiles, fetishes. Like, that's not right. So I'm thinking I might cruise on through and protest them as well while I'm at it. Protesting these places for what the way they're treating women, for their just flagrant disregard of our humanity and our rights, and advocating by educating the general public, people who mean well and just don't really know, because they silence us, because they don't let us talk about these things that are going on, and the true motivations for transing children and for letting men self-ID anywhere they want. So educating people, because most people have a common ground somewhere where they're like, no, actually, I do kind of believe in safeguarding and having standards. So it's just about giving them the words and the logic and the right to be angry, because so many people deny their right to be angry because they want to be kind and they want to be nice and non-problematic, which I understand. But man, it feels really good to be angry, because I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm angry. These are human rights violations, and I see activism for human rights violations everywhere. But when it comes to women, it's crickets. And so much of the time I'm asking people, where are the torches and pitchforks for women and kids? Where are the torches and pitchforks against male sexual depravity? That is the root of these crimes against us. It's crickets, and I'm angry. So I'm encouraging more women to be angry and do what they can. And for me, doing what I can ended up being to get a bike and then get on it and ride.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm doing.
Do you have anybody else riding with you?
Not right now. I have a network of some people. So I have a network of hosts who get me from city to city. I have a support van and a couple of different people who drive support. So picket signs are very difficult to strap on the back of a motorcycle. My megaphone, there's like a lot of things. So I have at least one support vehicle with me at all times. But the network is really in the women that are in the cities that I'm going to. So that's what I really try to foster, is not just going to the places, not just educating the public, but connecting women and demonstrating how easy it is truly to protest, to do this work, whether you're doing something that's as radical as doing a protest in front of a clinic with signs or whatever you want to do, or something as you can do in an individual and very discreet, like what the Turf Collective initiative with Target information of folding up a piece of paper a bunch of times. I have 400 folded ready to go at all times. Or you can just stop by a Target and be slipping them in women's products to make women aware. It is this huge range of possibilities. And I love demonstrating all these different ways that women can say no and protest and raise awareness. I like focusing on safeguarding because it's the root of all the work I do, and I do primarily work as a victim advocate. My work is, I would say, my number one issue is I'm anti-porn. I'm so disturbed watching all of the effects of a pornified culture, and especially on the youth, that I try to always focus victim advocacy and safeguarding in my work. And it all kind of ties, again, the male sexual depravity ties into the rates of rape and the absolutely non-existent conviction rates. And I've seen the things that keep cases from being prosecuted, and it's revolting. It's disturbing. It's why there's so much burnout in victim advocacy, because it's horrific to watch. It's infuriating. And in one of
involved in victim advocacy.
Oh, so this was 2017, 2016. 2016, I was raped on a date at this guy's house. It was a very vulnerable time for me. My mom had just passed away, and it was just I wasn't at all concerned about my well-being, much less safeguarding or thinking ahead in different ways in this way. Sorry to ramble. So I was raped on a date. And when I went to urgent care, which I didn't know what to do, but I was, at that point, I had radical feminism. So thank God I was, at least, there have been times where I've been attacked and I had no idea. Radical feminism gave me, okay, something went wrong. I was hurt. I should go somewhere. And it's crazy that I needed to be taught that, but I did. And I went to urgent care and wouldn't tell anyone why I was there. Huge red flag. No, I don't want to talk about why I'm here. Just get me in front of a doctor. Yeah. Get in front of the doctor, and I tell him what happens. And he says, well, again, this is 2016. He says, well, it was just you, and it was just this guy on a date. So I can't say it'd be worth your time to report. But if you did, there is a rape crisis unit at this hospital, and it services the city and the surrounding county, which is a huge area. I know now, impossibly huge area for one rape crisis unit to serve. But he tells me about it and then says, and also tells me it's basically not worth my time, which I know now he was, I guess, partially right in that him throwing me to, like, if he had thrown me in front of a police officer and been like, here, report, it would have been re-traumatizing. It probably wouldn't have there's no way it would have gone anywhere, right? That's kind of what he was telling me. But he didn't do his due diligence in making sure I was okay, making sure I was seen. But a week later, almost to the day, it might have been to the day a week later, a really good friend of mine called me to tell me that she had just been raped while she was at a Halloween party. And I knew what to do now because she's from my area. So I was like, well, come on home. We're going to this hospital, to this rape crisis unit. And being with her and I'm glad I knew where to go, because it kicked off this pattern this chronologue of events, which is she went to the unit and gets the rape kit done. And it took 3 years, right, before it was a military dude that attacked her. So it involves, when you have the cross of a military, it's a military court, military trial, but it's a civilian victim. It complicates the whole process, and it's already, they act like they don't know what they can do. The hospital didn't even have a rape kit release form. We had to wait 4 hours. Sometimes I wonder if they just typed it up while we were there, because they didn't even know how to release the rape kit that she had just got done. So being with her every step of the way, and my experience teaching me that what I thought was true, which is, oh, you get attacked and then you get this rape kit done and then they get the DNA and then he goes to prison, is just statistical achieving in terms of justice. It's not just little cracks in the floor that a victim might stumble on to get through. It's more like chasms that, without another person to do the negotiating, to do the reaching out, to do all of these triggering, like, difficult parts of it for you or with you, it's impossible. Like, you're from a trauma-informed point of view, our services for rape survivors is just pitiful. It's awful.
You are listening to WLRN.
It's awful. And so that was what got me, once I saw this happen and I saw the repercussions of all these different steps just going horribly wrong, like, it felt like every step of the way it was going wrong, that I realized I couldn't not do anything about it. I mean, at the time I was thinking, oh, I'd be a great counselor. I'd be a great, like, advocate for maybe a person who's going through something. But I realized then that I wanted to do more. I wanted to eventually get into policy work, into arguing on a legislative level about the changes that we need to be making systemically to advocate for people who are being victimized in this way, especially male violence against women and girls. Realizing how prevalent that is and seeing personally all the steps that we're just not taking, that we should be taking, common sense steps. It enraged me. It honestly, it made me furious. And that's what keeps me pushing to raise awareness, to make people understand how dire the circumstances are for survivors everywhere. Like, we need to provide a lot more support than we are. Yeah. And I want to figure out how to implement that into policy ultimately.
And you said that you were already acquainted with radical feminism before you were attacked. How were you acquainted with it?
So this is kind of funny. I found radical feminism on Pinterest, of all places, because I was doing the very unlikely, or very unlike me, thing to do. I joined a sorority in college. And I was what people would call a tomboy. And now with all this gender ideology, I'm like, hey, why were they calling me a boy? I was a girl, you know, but they call me a tomboy. And I was always working with my hands and stage crew type, and just not very stereotypically sorority girl. But I was at a point in my life, which I've returned to now, where if I was so afraid of so much and so paralyzed by anxiety and trauma, that I was saying I can't a lot to, like, everything. And I was believing it. And so I was tired of hearing those words in my head. And I decided, all right, if you think the words I can't, you have to try whatever it is. That's how I learned how to snowboard. Turns out I love snowboarding. I had a friend invite me and I thought, I can't snowboard. And then thought, oh God, okay, I have to go try snowboarding. And I did, and I loved it. Can't ski to save my life, awful. But snowboarding, I loved. And I found it because of this little thing, this little rule I had for myself. And joining the sorority was the same. I had a friend who said, oh, you should come out with me. I'm going to rush. Like, it's really cool. Like, it's not what you think it is about sororities. It's about service work. And I was like, I can't join a sorority. And then I was like, oh no, oh no, I gotta go try rushing. So I did, and I joined a fantastic sorority. But then I didn't know how to sorority. I just was typing into Pinterest like how to sorority girl. And probably in the midst of the female empowerment, women's empowerment that is very popular, obviously, within sororities, I found radical feminism, and through that found the gender ideology debate, and had one specific awesome radical feminist named Marie. She's from Germany. She piqued me in one comment, this long comment where, I mean, stumbling into it as a libertarian, I thought, and ignorant again, being like, who cares? I mean, who cares if these dudes want to call themselves women? You know, like who are they hurting? And she just wrecked me in this comment, and she wasn't cruel about it, but she was honest. And I was like, it was like the hitch just kept coming, but she was right. Every single point she was right. And that really, I'm very open to being told when I'm wrong and learning new things. So, oh man, I was hooked. And that's what really got me into the theory and understanding the nuance of the arguments that people were making. And that led me into radical feminism. So that was right before I was attacked. Unfortunately, it was after my mom died, because it really did. Radical feminism gave me so much context for what my mom's life must have been like, and the struggle she went through that I didn't at all appreciate when I was a teenager. But yeah, finding it has been liberating, to say the very least. And it got me. It is the reason I'm on the reason I'm a victim advocate, because having the theory of radical feminism and understanding safeguarding in practice of policies and resources for survivors, you just see more and more need. You just see more and more common sense things we could be doing to keep people safe and keep women safe and have options. So yeah, that's what led me there. Seeing the process of the legal system. I don't even like calling it the justice system, because of how little justice is actually served there. The legal system, I mean, if I was a different person, I'd probably do great in law school, but I'm just not ready for it. If that's where I might end up, I'm still activist on the ground work right now. One of the and it's supporting the women that fills my cup back up, right? So whether it's supporting my personal friends who have gone through the process, or I'm the type of person that at the beginning of college classes, I'll introduce myself as a victim advocate and say, like, if you have questions or you need a ride to the emergency room, not the police department, we need to stop framing this as a legal issue and instead frame it as the medical issue that it is. Whether it's a stranger that I'm helping in that context, or one of my recent activism campaigns is a stencil made out of cardboard. And for women who aren't comfortable spray painting, they have semi-permanent sidewalk chalk spray, which is very fun to use and lasts quite a few rainfalls. But the stencil just says, "He raped her here." Mm-hmm. And instead of the A in raped, I put an X, kind of like X marks the spot, and also to censor it for maybe kids going by. And I put hashtag RFR for Revfem Rebellion. But I had 3 requests in Portland alone, and I've already got 2 more in California of women asking me to mark that spot. And the conversations with them and understanding intimately as a victim advocate who sees this process play out so often the way it does, that tag on the ground is more outrage and recognition than most survivors ever get for what happened to them. Mm-hmm. And providing even that little bit is so valuable and so rewarding to give that to another survivor, especially knowing what it's like to just be told, no one's going to believe you. Why would don't waste your time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So being able to do that kind of activism as well, which I think raises awareness and also gives back a very real little, it's to a lot of people, it might seem stupid, but to a survivor, it really feels good to see that at that place where everyone is just telling you to shut up and stop mentioning it. So the activism, radical feminism brought me to activism, got me on the motorcycle, and now I'm out here and just really following the tide of where things are problematic. So things on the West Coast are totally different than things on the East Coast. It's way more progressive spaces. People, when on the East Coast, no one would side eye a shirt that says woman, adult, human, female. Really, I mean, not common, especially where I'm from and where I would spend my time. Like, no one really blinked twice at it. Here, everywhere, people are side eyeing that, because I have like 5 of these. I wear them all the time. There's constantly, people will comment on it at the gas station. People will comment it on the street. People will just tisk and shake their head and be like, ignorant that I have the definition of woman on my shirt. It's a different crowd. So luckily I've been in communication with some amazing women from the West Coast who have helped guide me and prepare me and help me understand the difference, because it's different. And that's something I like about this trip, is I've learned so much about how different perspectives exist everywhere in America. And it's been very rewarding to see all of that, and also see the common ground and the things that everyone can agree on from coast to coast, which is safeguarding women and children. So
yeah. And are you part of Generation Z?
I think I might still count as a millennial. I'm 1993.
1993. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're a millennial.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I was just thinking that a lot of people kind of think that the younger generation is kind of lost and hopeless. That we've all been wrapped up in the gender stuff, and I don't know, because there's so much social media, and especially if you're born like 2000 or later, your whole world has been online.
Yes.
I was born in 1990, so we probably have a similar experience of like social media being this slower thing that started with chat rooms and then MySpace, but there was still a lot of in-person interaction as far as being a teenager and going to the mall and doing that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, but I definitely remember grooming in chat rooms. There's a lot of predators. But like when we were at
I remember being in Club Penguin. Like,
what? Club Penguin?
I said I remember being groomed in Club Penguin and like Neopets, like websites. Like, they were everywhere. Predators know where to go for kids. Like, I hear you. It started early. Yeah,
it did. I was in MSN Messenger and AOL, chat rooms, all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They tend to be your age, or sometimes they're even honest about their age, but it's like, oh, I'm mature. I'm talking to older people. They totally use that to their advantage, trying to be accepted. But when we were at Sovereign Women Speak, there were a lot of younger women there. Like I think they were like in their early 20s. And that was kind of nice to see, because I feel like there is a lot of people who don't feel hope for the younger generation. What do you think?
Yeah. I did see a lot of younger women, and I do, I definitely understand feeling the loss of, feeling the hopelessness. It's rough. It's really hard to keep your head up when you know how bad things are, when you understand the idea of the internet being an iceberg, and the light web that we all use, everything that everyone else uses is just that 10%, and the dark web that we have, it's all the 90% is the dark web that we don't, most people don't ever touch. And that we know from like the FBI that has like a huge percentage, like a big percentage of their internet crimes division ended up being devoted entirely to trying to end child sexual exploitation online.
Yeah.
And that we have quotes from people that just say we can't keep up. Like it's crazy. Like we can't keep up with them. So it is easy to get lost in that, and seeing the effects of pornography, the effects of social media, the effects of like RPG games, like the RPG and the idea of like the Sims and things where you can change your person. You can pretend to be whoever you want. You can put whatever create whatever persona you want. It's exactly the same on social media. But just like I've learned on this trip, the value of being face to face when I connect with somebody, I can't help but look back and realize, wow, yeah, there's no way that we're getting the same socialization, getting the same value from personas we create online and interacting with them. Part of our humanity will always be lost in the in-between of us and the persona that we're pretending to be. So yeah, I think there is hope. I think the younger generation, even people my age, but I see it more and more. I've actually been talking like recently, the last couple of weeks, actually, more teenage girls have been reaching out to me, just be like, it's so badass, you're on a motorcycle, that's so awesome, how did you do that? Or asking for advice for doing activism on the ground, because I think ultimately, just like we know that feeling of, okay, we've lost something with being on the screen. I feel like a lot of girls and women, young women, are feeling that about LGBT solidarity and pride activism. They're like, wait a second, like, okay, you say you love me and you say you support me, or you say you're accepting, but I know a man isn't a woman, and I know what I am, and you're hating on me for it. And I think that loss is helping spark the anger that I think a lot of us feel day to day, having to suffer the gaslighting of being told we don't know who we are, and that our existence is just to be appropriated and abused. I think it's natural that we're angry, and I do feel a lot of hope, because it feels good. It feels good to be angry, righteously angry over these absolutely horrendous violations and abuses that we're expected to endure. And more get involved, the more young women I talk to, I think there's a lot more hope than hopelessness with being able to reach out, to make our voices heard. It is hard to break through what is brainwashing, right? Indoctrination of what you're supposed to be as a woman. That's why so many young women don't want to identify as women or even be called a woman, because it's, look how we're treated. Woman's a dirty word. The only women who are allowed to be called women are men.
Yeah.
It's awful. But there's the truth is there. Reality is there. And just like any ideology, all of this that people try to pretend is real, the truth never changes. And it feels so freaking good to be right. To be right and know that no, I can't be gaslit out of women in Foster. I've had my own fair share of who hasn't, but embodying a character of being your true self has been so helpful to me. So I'm just me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not ashamed of all the things that I've survived or gone through, or what I do. And I want to connect with women more than I want to hide or pretend to be something I'm not. But I love the little persona that I love and that I talk about is the little red rad character on her bike. because I started as the handmaiden with the red hood, and everyone, you know, well, not everyone, but people were somewhat critical of that because I guess the pushback about trans women are women and all that with The Handmaid's Tale. But I think we should make them afraid to put us in red hoods. Okay, we should make them afraid for us to unite against them. And I also think the fact, like the Texas abortion restrictions, the absolutely horrific rates of conviction for sexual assault and domestic violence and human trafficking and things. These are crimes that we're not even criminalizing effectively. And that reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale. So I love the red cape. I can't wear a long cape on the bike. That's like a recipe for disaster. But I do have my little red capelet that I wear at the red hood to protest and things, because I'm Little Red Radfem Hood on Twitter, Little Red Rad now, so it's easier for people to find me. That was what I made years ago when I from Pinterest found radical feminism, and I guess people just I don't know. I thought I was like, you got to appreciate the levels of the joke that go into like a little girl clocking the predator wearing her granny's clothes, right? And pretending to be her grandma. But I just embrace that. I embrace Little Red Rad, I embrace the red hood, the wolf hunter aspect of these predators, actual predators that we are exposing children and women to, much less caging them with them. Everyone knows who Little Red is when she comes in with her hood. I don't care if people know Joy is doing it. That's not, it's about, it could be any of us. And I want to encourage so many women, so many young girls to fold the piece of paper and go to Target. Sidewalk chalk, hugely, if everybody, you can't help but look at sidewalk chalk. I do hopscotch designs and then do at the top, like no child born in the wrong body. So kids, it's a very safe and easy way to engage kids and their parents. Anything you can do. It doesn't have to be getting on a motorcycle and finding yourself on a cross-country trip. But there's so many things, and it feels so good. True empowerment to speak out, say no, and raise your voice for women and kids who have lost the agency, full agency to do that. So that's my goal, and that's what keeps me going all the time. And also connecting sisters and finding sisterhood is just freaking, there's nothing better. Nothing better.
Absolutely. So how can people learn more about the Revfem Rebellion, how to get in contact with you, and get more info?
Okay. Yeah, so I have everything is pretty much explained on my GiveButter, which is easy, just givebutter.com/Revfem. And I'm on Facebook, Joy Gray, and Twitter, Little Red Rad. We, as an organizing team, are putting together a website, which I'm very excited about, completely about street activism and connecting women, whether that's writing to the legislature and people that you can express your political opinion to, or whether it's how to make signs that you can take to protests or something you can do on the ground. And that website, which I believe should be up by the end of the month, is feministrevolution.us, but that's not up yet. So just if you keep track of the GiveButter, it'll be up there. If you follow me on either of my pages, it'll be there. But I usually post updates about the protests I do and the people I connect with along the way. So yeah, and anyone can feel free to message me. My DMs are open, and I'm happy to answer any questions or connect anyone in any cities. Again, I've been up and over, and next I'm headed down the West Coast, so through San Francisco, where the headquarters are of those social media sites, down through Los Angeles and San Diego, and I'm cutting across to make the Wolf event on October 2nd. So I'll be there as well to do some boots on the ground campaigning around the abortion restrictions that are happening there. So that's, if anyone wants to meet me, I'll be in Austin October 2nd.
Yeah, it's in Austin. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, it was awesome talking to you. And thanks for
Thank you so much. So flexible with everything on the road. It's kind of hard sometimes to pin down when I'll be able to sit down and talk. But you were so great, and I so appreciate you giving me a platform to share about what I'm doing.
Oh, you're very welcome. All right, take care.
You too. Thanks.
To learn more about Revfem Rebellion and to support Joy's journey, go to givebutter.com/RevfemRebellion. You can also find Joy on Twitter at Little Red Rad and on Facebook at Revfem Rebellion and Joy Gray. These links will be down in the description. I hope you enjoyed this WLRN extended interview Emiliann did with Joy Gray. WLRN seeks to provide the unique and underrepresented voices of girls and women with a national and international grassroots venue to break the sound barrier women are blocked by under the status quo rule of men. We are 100% volunteer powered for the past 5 years and rely on you, dear listeners, to spread the word and help us break through the silence that keeps male supremacy alive and well. Please like, comment, and share widely. Until next time, this is WLRN Canadian member April No, reminding you all to take her easy on the road, as it is rutting season, and there are moose abounds.